Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Love Unconditioned. This podcast is focusing on the importance of self-love, self-compassion, embracing that, journeying with that, and also more importantly is that we are letting go of shame. And it'll all make sense as we journey throughout this podcast. But let me start with a very, very quick story. And I'm hoping some of you can relate to it. So I was sitting in the office, at the reception area, waiting for my appointment with the psychiatrist. This comes from a long, long journey of wondering, what is wrong with me? You know, there were high levels of self-loathing that I need fixing, that I need something corrected. And not necessarily with me being gay or whatever the case is, but it really all stemmed from all of these things that I feel like are wrong with me. So with me possibly not being able to say no, with me not having healthy boundaries, with me not being committed to a task or an activity. In fact, I went in there thinking that I have ADHD. But so many, many things. I feel like I had this mental list that I had wrong with me. And it all boiled down to, look, she didn't tell me this fabulous answer that, that there's a lack of self-love and high sense of self-loathing, but it really all boiled down to that for me. So today when I went for I think it was the third or fourth check-in with the psychiatrist, and she was incredibly, incredibly inspired by my choice of words. And then she actually pointed out, listen, I have patients who are highly, highly, highly suicidal and don't have the words that you are using right now, this power, in fact. And I was actually so confused. I'm thinking, is this not normal? Do we not know this? Do we not feel this? Do we not understand this? And it really just all came together to me in this moment, this morning, in fact, that these high levels of self-loathing that I had all branched out to situations like, oh, I have ADHD. Oh, I have literally self-diagnosing with no medical experience, no medical expertise. There have been a list of stuff. Whenever I have a down day, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, am I depressed? And I'd literally go and look up symptoms of depression. And for me, it's like almost like an every Saturday type of thing, where I would go onto YouTube and figure out, what am I going to diagnose myself with today? And there were things like ADHD, there were things like, obviously childhood trauma and all of these things that society presses down on you. Another little story was, look, I think for many years growing up, I always wanted to fix my R. So some people call it brain, some people, call it a speech impediment. And for the longest time, I can't remember for how many years, that I wanted to fix this. And, I would try rolling my R's, and, with that, I would have so much shame around it that, people are going to think I'm trying to be somebody else and things like that. I mean, it goes without saying. But there was not a turning point, because I think eventually I got comfortable with it, but there was a moment, I think we were in Plettenberg Bay? No, Paternoster. And there was a lady running her shop, and I think she sells her own handmade t-shirts or shirts, mermaid inspired, something like that. Anyway, very flamboyant, lovely person, big personality. And we engaged a little bit, and she was like, "Oh my God, I love the way you pray." And I told her, "Oh my God, this is so sweet. This is so kind of you." Because for the longest time growing up, I thought there was something wrong with me, and I would tweak the way I say my R's. She was like saying, "No, I absolutely love it. I love the way you say your R's." And that was the first time that I've ever experienced that. In fact, a lot of people that I do meet would say things like, say breingebraden roosterbrood. And initially I would, hate it. I would think, "Oh, you're just making fun of me," and stuff like that. I mean, again, that's on them. But I played down my uniqueness. I played down my beauty, my gift, the only way that I can say my R. I would play it down, and I would say that, and I would think that there's something wrong with it. Crazy. So this is why I started this podcast today with this in mind. How many other people out there have this high sense of self-loathing, that because they look at somebody else, that should be what I must aspire to be? That there's automatically something wrong with me because I'm not that? And doesn't it all stem from a lack of self-love, a lack of self-compassion, a lack of holding space for yourself, that you are doing the best that you can? I don't know. I think let's discover this journey together, I think. I don't want to go into things like stats and stuff like that. I'm thinking in the next... So I think going forward, this entire podcast will be just made up of 10 episodes. And I'll explain that a little bit later, what to expect and stuff like that. But within each of these, I want us to just really delve in it together and really journey on these things. Like, what is it that can happen? What is the magic that can happen when we start developing that self-love, that pure, authentic self-love? Not just something superficial, not something that, "Oh my God, I'm cute, and I don't have to be anything for anybody," that type of thing. Really more on a deep level. Something where you really are not seeking validation from anybody besides yourself. To be honest, I do think a lot of this boils down to societal pressures. When you are growing up, you'll see things like name brands. When you get to the age of 13, 14, you only want to buy name brands, the Nikes and the Adidas and stuff like that. But look, there's nothing wrong innately with that, but it's when your sense of self is attached to it, that's when it becomes a problem. Because then by the age of 20, 25, when you start working for yourself and you start making your own money and things like that, when you don't have those things, when you don't get that validation, we go into such deep, dark spaces where we start seeking validation from other things like food, addictions, drugs, all sorts of stuff. And does it really all boil down to this societal pressure of needing to be something for someone? I think we can also delve into so many things about how the lack of self-love actually affects your well-being. So when I sat with my psychiatrist this morning, she was saying things like, she was really just in shock. She was in awe. She actually said that this is her best day ever. I don't know if she was just saying that. But I took it. I took the compliment when she said that really she feels like this is the best day ever, with the choice of words that I was using. Things that I don't have to be something for somebody. I don't have to seek validation from somebody else because it's so fleeting. It literally passes within a second. And when we don't get that validation, we go into such deep, dark spaces. But anyway, so she was saying that she has about 5 patients. I don't know if it's at a clinic, at a hospital, whatever, who are highly, highly suicidal. She said that, you know, one of the patients might go into such a deep, dark space if their family doesn't visit. And then, you know, they'll get messages from the family like, oh, we were meant to come, we forgot. And there's just such a dark spiral that they go into. So already you are suicidal. And with these things like family doesn't come visit. Oh, my mother actually didn't hug me when she visited today at the hospital. She says, look, there isn't a golden answer to things like suicide. I don't think this is the answer, but it can solve so many things where we are seeking validation from things like from people, from a teacher, I know so many times where I've seeked. What's the past tense of seek? Anyway, where I've seeked validation from a line manager, from someone at work, for instance. And if I get such negative feedback about my performance or something that I did, goodness me, I would go into, this person hates me, and oh my goodness, what's wrong with this person? Are they having a bad day? And things like that. I would actually use that feedback as not validation, but I'd attach that to my identity. That, oh my goodness, I'm such a bad person because I didn't do ABC. So the manager would maybe comment on C, D, and E, but I didn't do A and B. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? How many times do we go through this? For how many years do we suffer with these things of what someone says to me or at me or about me, that is linked to my identity? That is such, let me not use the word, but that is such hogwash. That is the furthest thing from the truth, from the absolute truth, that just by our mere existence, that we are so unconditionally loved. I told her about this book that I'm reading called The Velvet Rage, and I'm almost done with it, but the entire book was just unveiling things to me about myself, where I'm constantly seeking validation. And if I don't get that validation, I go and seek it elsewhere, getting takeaways, ordering cake for myself. I love a good chocolate cake, but when it becomes a crutch, when it becomes a coping mechanism, it really gets into such a dangerous space. When we seek validation from people we don't even know. What the hell? From people we don't even know, people who don't even know us. We seek that validation. Not to say that we should seek validation from people, from our parents or from a brother. Like I said, it is so fleeting. For the longest time, I told the psychiatrist, for the longest time, I felt like I have to be someone, I have to be something for someone all the time. And if I'm not that I'm a bad person. No. That I constantly have to give and I constantly have to do something for that person to like me, and if that person doesn't like me, I'm such a bad person. Oof. That is such terrible feelings to have. We are constantly seeking that validation from somebody else. It's such a dangerous space to be in. But look, intention of this podcast is really to highlight this. It's really for us to go through these feelings of why is it that I'm going through things like self-loathing if I don't get that validation? Why do I hate myself so much? Because I didn't get that validation, or that person didn't smile back at me in the corridor. So I'm really, really excited about this podcast. Some of the chapters, so like I said, 10 episodes. Some of them are, I'll just share a little bit about what I do have. So we will explore the origins and significance of self-love, maybe a little bit of history. What history can teach us about self-love, maybe some exercises, the science of self-love. Another chapter would be dealing with shamelessness, breaking free from societal expectations. Excited. Another one, the masks that we wear. Ooh, I'm excited. Another episode, from self-criticism to self-compassion. And I'm not saying that I am high on the list of self-compassion and self-love. I have to journey with this daily. But the critical thing for us to know that I don't have to seek validation or a thumbs up from somebody else. It all exists within me. It may be such a far-fetched thought for you, but as we journey through this, I think daily, if we can even start with that right now, daily start to tell yourself in the mornings that I am loved. Not for what I do, not for who I am, not for what I can be for somebody else, just that I am loved. Just literally, by the mere fact that I have been born into this world, just by my mere sense of birth, I am infinitely boundlessly loved and worthy of love. Another episode, setting boundaries, setting ourselves free. Maybe a guest or two that we'll have. Episode 7, the power of self-care, and really some practical things that we can do. Again, I'm not an expert, but let's journey through it together. Episode 8, embracing our wholeness. Can't wait for that one. Episode 9, the beauty of imperfection. Celebrating who we are, celebrating our individuality, celebrating the way we say And lastly, episode 10 will be dealing with rewriting our story, rewriting who we are, that we are innately loved just by our mere human natureness. I am unconditionally loved and I'm worthy of love. So if this literally just helps one person, I will be very happy. Even the psychiatrist asked today, are you not going to be discouraged when you don't have numbers, on your podcast and whatever? And she was really interested. And I said, no, absolutely not. My identity is not attached to that. Just by the mere fact that I'm telling my story, my journey with self-love is enough for me. So yes, those are some future topics. What I do want to just leave you with is just reflect on the moments of self-love that you've ever tried, that you've ever attempted, that you've ever felt. And if you can't get to any of those moments, try and define what self-love means to you. One quick story before we go. So I think it was maybe 3-4 years ago, I was nominated for a top performer at the previous company that I worked at, and I was over the moon. So literally just by the nomination alone. I kept reading the words that the person put up for me, and it was just fabulous to write. It was actually such a cozy little hug that I felt. Anyway, I think a good couple of months went by, and there was the actual event where the winners would be announced, and it was excruciating for me to actually go through that waiting period, because I just wanted to know, did I win? Did I win? Did I win? You do win something if you after your nomination, and if you go through a couple of rounds, you can actually win an overseas trip, all expenses paid trip. Anyway, so the event comes, I'm incredibly nervous, and the evening goes on, there's some performances and stuff like that. Then the time comes for, I think out of the couple of hundreds of people that were there, only 6, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 6 out of the entire department cluster stood a chance to win this top performer, top achiever award. So they start mentioning the names, and look, I don't think I had an inclination that something would come of this. I don't think I had any type of idea. They start mentioning names. They've gone through 5 of the names, and the last one that they call is me. The way I was in tears, the way I was crying as I was walking up onto that stage. I was sobbing, and not a tear, not emotional or whatever, sobbing, like the tears were rolling down into my mask, because at that time we just got out of a lockdown. Even as I'm standing on the stage with 2 of the executives taking a picture with me, music was going on, people were cheering. I was just sobbing, like just constantly, like non-stop. I think only after I got off the stage and went back to my seat, I was still crying like crazy. But eventually, as I sat down, I calmed down and everything. But when I think back to this, was it a moment that I validated my identity in that moment? Not to say that, we shouldn't celebrate these things and celebrate our wins. Absolutely, we should be celebrating our wins. But in my mind, I almost felt like this isn't right, that I'm winning this thing. This isn't, I don't win such things. I'm not as lucky. I'm not as worthy of an all expenses paid trip overseas at a 5-star place, and just where people are cheering for me. Oh my goodness. It was such a huge moment for me, where I thought, did I not believe that I was worthy? Did I not believe that these things could happen to me? But at the same time, it's also like, is it only in moments like this where my power is validated? It was really like these questions. Only a good couple of months afterwards, again, this has been a journey of self-love and uncovering, unraveling, and discovering these things about myself. Like, I'm actually shaking right now just thinking back at that moment. Were my tears of no? Were my tears of unworthiness, where I have been told for good half of my life that I'm an abomination, that I'm not worthy of self-love, that I'm not worthy of joy, that I'm not worthy of feeling good every day, if I can even take it to such an extreme. And that stems from this belief that if you love yourself too much, society tells us, if you love yourself too much, are you cocky, you too arrogant, you this, you that, be careful not to, blow your own horn and stuff like that. where we have to be modest with these things. But that and a whole lot of other stuff. When you see a skinny person on the internet, oh, I want that body, telling yourself that there's something wrong with you because you don't have that. Telling yourself that you are a failure because you don't have a 5-bedroom house. It stems so deep. While everyday decisions are linked to other people's opinions about us. So let me leave you with that without getting too emotional and too deep. Like I said, we've got 10 episodes that we are going through, and this was literally just the beginning for us to really journey through this together. You know, ask questions, let's engage. I don't know how, but I'm excited for this journey. In the next episode, like I said, we will deal with I've got a title. It's called The Unconditional Within. Exploring the significance of self-love. And again, like I said, maybe tracing it back into history. What are some early philosophies that tell us about self-love? Maybe even what they say about self-loathing. And how modern mental health trends have evolved. That I can speak to a lot. A lot. We'll have a little bit of a cultural story, maybe even societally, how we can embrace unconditional love for ourselves, the science of self-love, and then hopefully a nice little practical exercise for us to go through. But if there's anything that I can leave you with today is think about, what does self-love mean to you? Just think about it, ponder on it, wonder on it, and reflect. Have there been moments where you've really held space for yourself, where you've really been just a little bit more compassionate with yourself, telling yourself things like, hang on, I'm actually trying the best that I can, and that is good enough.